Way to go, Tic Tac!
That's how you punch.
Wakanda forever!
Nah, you wouldn't have heard of me.
Let me put you on hold.
Dance off, bro! He's a friend from work!
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What up, guys? It's Dom. Welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going over and ranking Superman. Superman, released in 1978, directed by Richard Donner, an alien orphan is sent from his dying planet to Earth, where he grows up to become his adoptive home's first and greatest superhero. Now, this is the first iteration we've gotten of Superman, of course, since it's being in 1978. And it's one of the first DC movies after the original Batman, which I already reviewed, and the original Wonder Woman, which I have yet to review. But either way, I was kind of excited to watch this because I've never actually seen Christopher Reeve's version of Superman. And I did enjoy it. However, the movie itself is really what bothers me. It's not the character as much as the movie. So without further ado, let's just get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. Now, I really did not enjoy the plot of this movie. I did once he actually became Superman, but the time that it spent to get to that point was way too long. So I was not as invested in it as I could have been. And it's not like, they obviously want to show everything about how he became there, but it kind of showed Krypton, which that opening scene was fine, and then showed Krypton being destroyed, and then him being sent to Earth, and then he landed, and then just a bunch of dead space, or well, dead air, like nothing was really happening, and then suddenly he's a teenager. And then he was using his powers at once, and then his dad told him to stop. And then, again, barely anything was happening. And then suddenly he's an adult, and then nothing is happening again until finally he decides to become Superman. And then from then on, it becomes more interesting. But that whole first hour and a half, it was just... I mean, I'm going to talk about it more in the editing, but it was just paced really, really badly. And I feel like that didn't help a lot with the character development because it had so much time to develop the character, but because basically no development happened in that whole time, it was kind of just pointless to even have some of those scenes in there. So the plot really took a big hit with that. Otherwise, it was honestly interesting towards the end, but for most of the movie, it wasn't. The second essential aspect is attraction. So I was looking forward to seeing this movie, so that's where the attraction does come in because it's a character that a lot of people know and love. I really like Superman's story. I like seeing the different versions where it's like the Christopher Reeve version that I just saw, obviously Henry Cavill's in Man of Steel, and then Superman Returns as well, all have slightly different versions of the same story, so it's cool to see that, which is why the attraction level is there. I was intrigued and wanting to see it, but again, all those scenes where nothing was happening kind of ruined the suspense, and I wasn't as invested in the movie as I could have been once the Superman reveal actually happened. So that definitely made it take a hit for me. Otherwise, I did like seeing a lot of the scenes where obviously he was Superman, and especially, I'm not going to spoil the movie for anyone that hasn't watched it, but there was a really big scene towards the end of the movie which I thought was really cool to watch as well. So overall, attractive-wise, I was interested in the movie once it got there. It just took a little bit. The third essential aspect is theme. Yeah, I can't really think of a good theme or message that this movie has, so let's move on. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. Now, the dialogue in this movie, some of it was good, some of it was bad. I feel like a lot of the conversations felt real, especially for the 70s. I do have to say, Christopher Reeve did a really good job at this dual personality, Superman sounding way different than Clark Kent and just speaking in a different manner as well. So that was cool to see, and he definitely did do a good job separating the two. And I have to say, the actress for Lois Lane, I really didn't like her. I did not think she was a good Lois. I feel like she was way too loud and sporadic, and she didn't feel as realistic as some of the other characters. And dialogue included, I just feel like she didn't sound the way I would imagine Lois Lane sounding. So that's definitely bothered me, but Christopher Reeve definitely did a really good job being this character in general, dialogue and otherwise. The fifth essential aspect is acting. Like I just said in dialogue, Christopher Reeve played Superman, Clark Kent. He is definitely the star of this movie. He did a good job. I already said how he did good in the dialogue, but overall in the acting, I feel like he did really take on this role, and he did feel like Superman to me. I've seen many different versions of Superman. He definitely does really, really good with all the pieces he's been given. So props to him. He definitely played the character exactly how I would imagine him playing the character. And obviously I don't have it written down here, but again, the actress that played Lois Lane, I think they should have recast that. She could have done so much better. She was definitely given better material. It's just the way that she presented the character. So I have to say that didn't do too well. Otherwise, though, everyone else, I didn't have any real problems. I liked Jimmy Olsen. I liked Perry White. I liked their characters, even though they were smaller roles. They didn't feel unrealistic or really to me. So I do have to give them that. So yeah, the characters did good. Lois, bad. Superman, really good. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. Now here's where we get to some points again where it's really good and really bad. So what I have to say is throughout the whole movie, the visuals I thought were pretty good, especially for a movie from 1978. That's not really what pulled me out. What pulled me out was during the flying scenes where Superman is flying with Lois. It is so unbelievably unrealistic that it hurt my head. Because I'm going to show the scene here while I'm talking about it, but he was flying with Lois, and then suddenly she's almost flying beside him just because he's holding just like her fingers. And apparently that means that Lois Lane, a human, is strong enough to hold herself up just by her fingers just because Superman's flying. Because they're on an even plane. It's not like she's hanging down and he's holding her. It's the fact that she just suddenly became a Kryptonian as well for no reason. And then all of a sudden when he lets go of her finger, then suddenly she drops. And it's just like, that pulled me out so unbelievably hard. But otherwise, Superman's flying I actually liked in this movie. I think that it looked pretty good for the time period that they're in. So other than that one specific scene, the visuals were good. But I do have to say, emotion-wise with cinematography, it did not have much. There was some sad parts in this movie. It didn't really invest me enough to feel the emotions for these characters. The seventh essential aspect is editing. Now, like I said in the plot, I mean, this movie was paced terribly. I mean, they spent so much time attempting character development with showing his origin where they just wasted it. Because they really didn't show much. And they just spent, I think it actually was like an hour and a half, because this is a 2.5 hour movie almost. So it spent a majority of the movie showing nothing, and then the interesting stuff, which got me back into it. But that entire first section could have been spent way more wisely. We could have seen more of Superman maybe, or at least shown him trying to use his powers at the beginning of his life. But they just showed him like running beside a train. And that's really all they showed him for powers. And then as a 10-year-old, lifting a car, and that's it. So, like, we didn't get much. We got Krypton at the beginning, which was fine. Superman at the end, which was fine. That whole middle section is just pointless. So, editing-wise, this movie was paced terribly. The ending wrapped up pretty well. So, I gotta say that they paced, I guess, the back half good. But everything else was not done well. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. This is, again, a place I can give the movie props because this soundtrack was so iconic. Superman's intro was playing throughout a lot of the movie whenever he has his big moments, and it made me feel like a kid again, to be honest. They chose a great song to incorporate with Superman, and overall, just the tone the whole movie had fit the characters well. So I have to say, soundtrack is something that they actually did good. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So I think it's the director's job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And the director of this movie is Richard Donner, and he's previously directed 4 movies, and they were X-15, Salt and Pepper, London Affair, and The Omen. And I've never watched any of those 4 movies, but based off of this one, maybe the editing is something that's more the issue, more than just the characters and the directing of the whole movie. I do have to say it's kind of his fault that this movie wasn't paced too well, but I won't go super down hard on him because maybe he improves it on the other movies. But for this one specifically, yeah, the pacing was terrible. There was some plot issues that were just couldn't be overseen. So I have to say, is it a worth watch? Yes, because it's the first Superman movie. It's cool to see his take. But I'm just excited to see the next movies to see if he actually improved on any of the things that he did wrong with this movie. And the 10th essential aspect is time. I definitely think this movie stood the test of time. I mean, when I saw the reviews, people really, really liked this movie. Now, I'm assuming most of those reviewers are 70 because this movie is obviously from the 1970s. And back then, just like Batman in 1966, that was also reviewed highly, which I didn't understand why. It's probably the nostalgia factor. It's probably that they watched it as a kid. That is their Superman. Well, for me, for example, when I was younger, Henry Cavill was Superman. And I also know a lot of people don't like Man of Steel. I don't understand that. That's a completely different issue I will bring up when I'm reviewing. But either way, this Superman is a lot of the reviewer's main man when it comes to this character. So I understand why people rate it highly. It definitely will stand the test of time because of that. But as a movie, I feel like this shouldn't stand the test of time. This should have been a one and done type thing. And I don't know. That's just how I feel. I definitely think that it stands the test of time because of the character itself. I feel like there can't really be a Superman movie that doesn't stand some kind of time. Just like there can't be a Batman movie, a Spider-Man movie, a Captain America movie that doesn't stand some kind of time because of the fan base of Marvel and DC. Now, onto the reviews. And this is what I was talking about. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes critics give it a 93%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it an 86%, and IMDb gave it a 74%. Now, I think all of these are too high, to be honest. As much as I love the character, I get all of these out of here. I feel like it deserves to be 50% tops. I feel like they showed more nonsense in this movie than actual good parts. And there isn't enough like really good cinematic aspects or really good acting to make up for the pacing issues. So I have to say this movie is not one that I would choose to rewatch. I mean, I watched it with my girlfriend. She even said this is like her least favorite movie she's seen because of how bad of a watch it was. So I have to say this movie definitely bombed for me. And finally, the rankings. So in 1978, it's going to be first. Only movie I've reviewed in this year, so until I do more, it's going to be alone here. In the 1970s, same deal. It's going to be first. Only movie I've reviewed in the 70s so far. Hopefully I plan on expanding that. I want to expand my horizons of what year or what decade of movies I watch. And now in all time, it's going to be 48th, above the New Mutants and below Joker, Folie à Deux. And it's above the New Mutants because as much as plot problems this movie had, New Mutants had the same problem. And both didn't have enough to really make up for it. I just feel like I enjoy Superman as a character a lot more than any of the New Mutants. Maybe Cannonball is a really cool character. I liked him in that movie. But I have to say, for the acting wise, I feel like it was better in Superman, especially with Christopher Reeve and even the man who played Lex Luthor. He also did really good. So I do have to say acting is probably better in this. So both really bombed it when it came to interest and pacing it well to like get you excited for it. But I have to say there's better elements in Superman than there are in the New Mutants. And Superman is below Joker Folie à Deux because even though I didn't really like Joker 2, I feel like plot-wise it made more sense. The movie was definitely paced well and cinematically was really good. I, of course, wasn't a fan of the musical aspect, but that doesn't mean that the movie sucks because of it. A lot of people liked that part, and I enjoyed it too. It was just too much of it, and that was the real issue. So basically, I'm fighting between two movies that one doesn't have enough and one has way too much, and I think I'd rather take too much than not enough, because not enough made it a boring watch. Too much at least kept me engaged in the movie some bit, so I have to say it was not that hard of a decision. I think Joker 2 is clearly better than Superman. And that's all I have for Superman. If you guys enjoyed this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. If you want to see someone that does the same format with me and movie reviewing, both with the rankings and just the overall review, check out my best friend, Mr. Majoritarian. He is the one that got me into movie reviewing in the first place. Definitely go check him out. He literally does the same thing as I, mean, format and all, just different point of view, a different perspective that you guys might enjoy a little more. So definitely check him out. His link is always going to be in my description. Definitely let me know what you guys thought of this movie. Am I really unbiased, I guess, instead of being a little more towards Superman? Because I am a DC fan, so I like the character. I just think they didn't use him well in this. and that pacing is holy moly terrible. So let me know if you guys have seen this movie, what you thought of it. Let me know what movie you want me to review next. And I hope you guys have an amazing night. Peace out.